the story of the demolition of marriage, and separately, the beginning of a grinding attack upon the South, upon the Southern ways, upon the flag, which in the minds of many represents the Southern valiant spirit, the Southern ideal of independence. These attacks are these attacks could be sourced perhaps in the idea of the corporation. And I'm going to make that suggestion just so we can put pieces together, maybe in a fresh way. How is it that the corporation is, as a concept, is behind the demolition of marriage, and is also behind the idea that we have to have one voice, one idea, and that no one can dissent from it, and that no one can argue for a different center, a different locus, if you will, a different location. And the attack on the South is an attack on the idea of the here, right? It's an attack of the idea of the here, and that is because the main idea that we all need to agree on is that Washington won. Washington's way is the right way. And we don't want to remember that there was a war. We don't want to remember that there was an ideal behind the war. It wasn't slavery at all. It was taxation. It was the tariff. It was the authority of states to set their own course, having yielded some of their sovereignty, if you will, back in the founding of the Federal Republic. After the coup in Philadelphia, the states agreed, the colonies agreed to become states and to unite themselves, and they yielded some of their authority and some of their sway to the corporation in Washington, which over time, of course, as the anti-federalists warned, would come to consume all, to consume the states and to ravish the people. The idea of corporations at war with you, my listener, is not one that is new to you. I hope it's something I've thought about a long time. And I'm a writer. My name is David Toulis, and I've written a fair amount on this whole idea of corporations. And corporations are, of course, artificial persons. They're legal fictions. They are a separate legal identity from their founders, from their incorporators, and they are all inevitably chartered or incorporated by an incorporator. Now, if you're in Tennessee, the incorporator is the state itself through the office of the Secretary of State. And, the scribe of the state keeps a record of these corporations whose members come to it for the great blessing of limited liability. And the idea of limited liability is we could even see that as an explanation of how the Greek debt crisis has arrived. Even the pending blow up in Puerto Rico, which could have long-term effects on paper money assets and paper money itself, the Federal Reserve dollar, which is, of course, a fiat currency, a currency in the idea sphere. It is simply a conjuring of people's imaginations, and everyone who uses these means of currency, these dollars, agree. Well, this is what they're worth today. And they're not lawful bills by any means. They're not constitutional. They run, you might say, either against the Constitution as being unconstitutional, or they run, we could put it more virtuously, parallel to the Constitution. They run in the administrative realm of the national government, and leaving just a tiny sliver of reality, which is the ancient common law reality that in which we have our origins as a people, you might say, and as Americans. And the whole idea, the attack on marriage brings up some important points as we look at in this direction, in the direction of exercising marriage as a right. And my analysis of this point has been in this direction. If the high court rules against marriage, the marriage it's ruling against is statutory marriage. In other words, that kind of marriage that states create, that state governments through their agents in the counties, the county clerks, create at the petition of two beings, a man and a woman, who can't marry on their own, right? That's why we have a marriage license regime in Tennessee, which has its origins back in the 1780s, I believe. And it was against miscegenation. It was against the mixing of races, and and it allowed the state to say, well, no, you can't marry. And all marriages under statute are marriages by permission, marriages between two people who could not otherwise marry. And the answer that local economy offers to the national theory of marriage, the deconstruction of marriage, is that we have a right to marry, right? We have a right to marry not by permission, but by right. And that is because marriage belongs to each man and each woman. And if that man and woman have the necessary requisites for marriage, they can marry at common law, which is something that no gay can ever have. No gay could ever have a common law marriage. Homosexuals wouldn't want common law marriage. They want only what the state creates, right? They are very statist oriented. They are progressive people, right? Homosexuals tend to be very progressive, and they look to the state for all good things, for welfare, for employment, and for protections and favors, and of course for the right to marry. They get that from the state itself. And now that Tennessee and most of its counties has complied, as we like to say, complied with the ruling, right, the law of the land, as it's called, and issues marriage licenses to two men or two women. We have to understand that marriage, you might say, in the form with which we know it, has been mortally corrupted. Now, that's not going to stop a lot of people who are professing Christians from going ahead and getting their marriage licenses as before. But for you, my listener, the man who thinks about things, right, who wants to be ahead of the curve, who wants to know where things are going, who wants to know the real analysis, the local economy analysis, you're going to think better about marriage than other people. And also the stories about that we're reading in the national press about the gay lobby thinking, well, now there's a great salivation in the offices and in the bars as people continue to celebrate the Obergefell opinion, that we are now going to go after churches, right? We're going after churches. We're going after tax exemptions. We're going after all grants, breaks, and outright subsidies, because they don't comply with the new constitutional right, and they don't recognize the constitutional right. Well, there is one place where this attack will not succeed, and that is against the real church. Now, I speak not necessarily theologically, because God has always protected His church and will prosper her to the last day and increase her value to mankind and her glory to God. But the church enjoys something that religious organizations don't. And here comes this idea of the common law church. And the common law church is one that is in the law a church, okay, as opposed to a religious organization or a religious organization, a corporation that has a special federal benefit under 501c3 of the tax code. And 501c3 organizations, of course, they're going to be facing trouble. They're facing trouble in the courts, and there are going to be vicious, and very exciting prosecutions and persecutions of Christians and churches who have yielded their common law rights and have taken on the form that the state grants. So here we have churches which are religious organizations because they've applied to the state for same. We have men and women who not exercising the rights that God gave them and rights which are recognized in our law, who go to the state to be married. You see the problem. You see how these two things are together, and there's a common response to both, and that is that local economy and people in it, like you, my listener, and then the other man who's the reader at Newgonomics.com, the website for the man who matters. You two men are those who can say, well, hold on, we're going to exercise a right now, and these rights cannot be exercised by those who have fallen into the trap of gay theory. Marriage in the common law is not possible for a pair of men. Jim and Joe cannot marry at common law, and religious organizations which are chartered by state government here in Tennessee, Georgia, and Alabama, these are creatures of the state, and they are inevitably, you're going to have to understand, they are going to be bound by public policy. Public policy is a strange creature, and it has in some respects the force of law. It has in some respects the force of custom, the routine of administration and bureaucracy shapes public policy, and so in some respects, it's like soft law. It's not law, but it's shaped by custom. And public policy is that very vague area where rights are very difficult to exercise, and where the state and the people who run the state and the people who are behind the state have their way, and they bring everyone into conformity with their theory, whether it's on taxation, whether it's on rights, whether it's on business, whether it's on finance. All bow to the same, you might say, the same idol. And what is the local economy response? Well, corporations are at war with you. You have a corporate marriage if you marry in the state, and if you have a charity or a church that has surrendered its natural rights, its constitutional rights, its common law rights, if you will, you have a religious organization, a tax-exempt religious organization or charity, which is a statutory creature. It's an artificial person, a corporation. Well, what is a corporation exactly? Well, it's as I say, it is a creature of the state, and it follows state law, and it serves the public. Well, let me ask you this: as far as you understand the gospel, does the gospel require the church to serve the public, or is there a perhaps higher calling than that? Marriage is a topic I think that's very exciting, because without marriage, there is no local economy. Without the family, there is no prosperity. The family, a man and woman and their children, and their lawful life together, is where businesses come from. All business comes from that. That's where estates are transferred from family member to family member, and capital is created in you might say, in the womb of the family, where the dad and his wife and their children create a little enterprise, and then the grandchildren start working in that enterprise, and pretty soon it becomes an incorporated business, right? Selling tires or providing flood restoration services, such as John Haustein's business, a very small operation, and he's a local man who I chatted with yesterday, where his job is competing against the big franchise of ServPro, and John Haustein's little business is in the same field, but it's one that he will pass on to his children and hire people he knows and who have the same ideas he does. And that's how the family is where capital originates. And even going back behind that, it's character. Character is the form and the basis of capital. And how is capital destroyed? How do you reduce value? How do you lose value? Well, we know that debt is part of it, and debt, implied in debt, the whole idea of massive debts is consumption now, payment later, right? It's very self-centered, very omphalocentric. In other words, the person who has a lot of debts is not looking out at other people to how he might help them. He's looking at his own navel, and he's looking at his own problems, and he becomes obsessive with paying the lender. He becomes a slave to the lender. The demolition of capital is exactly what the Gay ruling represents. It represents a decision by 5 men to destroy the capital, the legal basis of capital here in Chattanooga and in Hamilton County. Now, how do we get around this? Well, I would say that we have to understand that we have to defend marriage, and I'm not going to make a concession where I say, well, I defend traditional marriage. I'm going to say I defend marriage, and that's what I'm defending. And I defend marriage, and it's against lug butt theory, the idea of the LGBT, the Q crowd, right, the queer crowd, who seem to have won the day, who have stanched all further debate about the matter. Now it's just war. There is a war opened based on the law, the so-called law, based on the opinion, against everyone who does not agree. And these people, they're high in their excitement right now. We have to just celebrate with them and their giddiness, but they are going to be wearing out their welcome, I think, before too long. And there's a very exciting battle ahead, and people who profess Christianity are going to have to now it's going to actually cost them something. It's going to cost them something, and I think it's going to be very strengthening for people of principle, people of religious conviction. who love God and who want to serve Him, and who realize that there is a long-term war against God through the institutions of culture, just as Gramsci, the Italian communist, proposed back in the 1930s. You make a war against the traditional bastions of capitalism, which would be family, church, and property rights, and Christian morals, and through education, through the taking over of welfare, and in the end, you have your socialist paradise. And we are very close to that in many ways. Our here at the end of our clock, the clock is tolling on the end of the empire at 250 years. We are typical. Our situation is typical of all those that have gone before. Well, my name is David Toulis. I wanted to mention to you that in the disaster that's been Obamacare, there is a glimmer of hope. It is the free market in medical services. And there are already a couple of, I think there may be 4 or 5 practitioners, doctors in the Chattanooga area who are part of the vanguard of local economy resurgence, which is to say the cash economy. And I'm making reference here to David Redd. David Redd, Dr. Redd, runs Quick Surge in the Publix shopping center on the North Shore. He takes care of moles and skin tags and cuts and lacerations, work-related, home-related. And the neat thing is he doesn't take insurance, doesn't worry about insurance. You pay him in cash. His prices are super low and fixed. I have some coupons for David Redd. Just contact me. It's half price. A surgery is usually under $200. And if you get that coupon from me, it's I think it's a couple $100. I'll give it to you at half price. So just contact me, David Toulis, here at the radio station. His prices are online. It's hassle-free. It's pain-free. And he is part of the solution to the national medical system, which is impersonal, dysfunctional. Online, quicksurge.com, QUIKSURG.com, QUIKSURG.com. Make a note of David Redd and patronize his effort. And he is the beginning of the reformation in this field. In this field, as it's happening, it's going to be happening in the supermarket business as well. It is coming. If you read an interview that Polyface Farm, Virginia farmer Joel Salatin gives, the supermarket is on its way out. It's going to be overturned. The supermarket, which is fed, the whole supermarket system, which is a centralization, a commercialization of agriculture, right? The supermarket represents the industrialization, the end point of the industrialization of farming. Not the end point in time, but the end point in the whole system that has been built, where giant corporations with shareholders own farms, and family farms are largely gone. And our hope here at Nuganomics.com is to encourage this whole trend and to make a big deal out of this whole trend. And in fact, I was having an email chat this morning with Steve Bonico. We were talking about Joel Salatin's interview at Peak Prosperity, which is called "The Pursuit of Food Freedom: A Right Worth Fighting For," an interview with Chris Martinson. And Steve has an idea for a farm incubator, and just like the incubator for small businesses downtown. And what it would do would be to let farmers farm and let middlemen organize what we could call it's an electronic aggregation scheme. You have farmers who aggregate electronically in the digital world, in the intergalactic world of the internet, right? Aggregate shopping and distribution of local food here in Hamilton County and Chattanooga. This idea is not even viewed with any cheer by organic grocers. Even the Harvest Grocery here in Chattanooga would be overturned. Its model would be overturned in the idea of integrity food through electronic aggregation that does away with the impediments to food integrity, the hurdles, the bureaucracy, and would create effectively virtual supermarkets where people would receive their food by home delivery. Now, of course, that would cut short the thing that we're urging you, my listener, to do, and that is patronize the farmers markets here in Chattanooga. Go to one, make a habit of it. Take your children. Take time off when you go to a farmers market. the whole rhythm of your life changes. You suddenly have time. You suddenly have an inclination to chat with people and to make conversation. And Joel Salatin, in his interview, oddly enough, talks about that as something that's already in the past, right? Already in the past for the development of ultra uber local, you might say, the sharing economy in farming. And what's happening there tears up the whole supermarket paradigm, the industrial food paradigm. In the same way, local economy marriage by common law right, that is how gay theory will be overturned. Later on, 10 or 20 years from now, a lot of gays will be, there are 20 or 30 gays in Chattanooga. They'll have their marriage licenses, but everybody else who knows better is having their children married as a matter of right. This is David Toulis. I've got some things I want you to hear. Hang on. Important messages.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Right now, you can save half off at hotnewstalkradio.com. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click half off for exceptional deals on new and pre-owned unique quality items. For Hamilton County residents only. Save half off at Jet's Pizza, golf clubs, coffee, tea, a real sword, jewelry, and much more. It's half off. Go to half off at hotnewstalkradio.com right now, then click on half off to save big. Be sure to join us live Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m. as we bring you lots of fantastic deals right here, AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. HotNewsTalkRadio.com and half off. Surf our site and ride the wave of savings. We've got a table here at Delia's in Soddy Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection, loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas, every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Soddy Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Soddy, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Coverage continues Sunday here at Live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
When my brother and I opened our first Jet's Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300-plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingram, Dennis Miller, David Toulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie makes his executive office intentions official.
We need to have strength and decision-making and authority back in the Oval Office. And that is why today I am proud to announce my candidacy for the Republican nomination for President of the United States of America.
Speaking from the gym of his old high school in Livingston, New Jersey, pro-choice supporters are celebrating yesterday's victory in Texas.
The U.S. Supreme Court temporarily halts a lower court's ruling over a 2013 law that would have shuttered more than half the state's 19 remaining abortion clinics. At issue are the requirements that abortion facilities must upgrade to hospital-like standards and that doctors performing abortions must have admitting privileges at a local hospital.
Fox Radio's Jeff Bonasso and doctors at a Central California hospital have delivered a fourth set of triplets in the last 4 weeks. Fox News, we report.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
Love your neighbor, buy local. That's the argument here at Nooganomics.com, of which I am the editor. My name is David Toulis, and my job is editing. I make things look good. I write, and I'm the writer in Chattanooga with the biggest pen. My pen is about 180 feet tall, and it sits in a field in Saudi Daisy with some guy wires holding it straight up. And I do appreciate you, my listener, giving me just a couple of minutes of your time here today. We are Nooganomics.com every weekday 1 to 3, and have a friend make the switch to our radio station. We are AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Sean Handy made the switch, and he's our number 2 star here on our very fine, very intelligent lineup, our sharing economy lineup. Our number 1 guy is Russell the Kid with Digital Drive. He's the young man who never has set foot in a classroom before, and yet can penetrate all the lies and the fibbery of national economy, of the digital world, and lay it out for you. Real specialist in his field, real libertarian, freedom-minded analysis every weekday at noon sharp. Now, on the number 4 show, number 3 actually temporarily, since Tex is not in the studio. But when he's here, well, I'm going to have to take a back seat to him, and that's Cowboy Up with Tex, which is every weekday at 6 ordinarily. But it's 4th of July weekend soon, and things are a little different. Story out of Sacramento about the legislature in California passing a strict vaccine bill, and you have to, as the people who run such systems consolidate their gains, right? As they consolidate and they bring in greater uniformity among their ranks and among the ranks of the consumers of said services, right? Well, you're going to have a lot of losses, and this is one that's going to cost a lot of warm bodies to, we would hope, to the California public school empire, the cartel, if you will. And that will be because many parents will simply not have their children enrolled in a system which, as a prerequisite to entry into that first chair there in the row, that the child be poisoned with various things called vaccines, which in their preservatives are lethal for many, and damaging to the neurological bodily structures of thousands and thousands of children around the world. And yet here, Governor Jerry Brown has a very, very strong public health perspective, which suggests he will probably sign this bill into law against the opposition of thousands of parents who have now the choice of going where? Going to the free market. But the you might say a slavish mentality is evident in one quote that appears in the Chattanooga Times Free Press account of this, a kind of cut off wire story. I will sue to put my child in school. And this is a quote from Jude Tovitt of Roseville, who's I think I'm not sure if that's a man or woman, an 8-year-old child, parent of an 8-year-old child. I will not run from the state that is our home. So here's a person who's going to sue to get that free service of indoctrination which is the public school in that state. Well, we are here defending local economy, and not really defending it. There are not really many attacks against it, and that's the neat thing. I'm in a field that doesn't have a lot of enemies, and that is a booster for local economy and the idea, if you will, the ideals of local economy. And the national economy crowd that we can read up on in the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the Wall Street Journal would argue the following. This is a little test, okay, a little quiz. And here's the quiz. True or false? Far is better than near. Is that true? Big is better than small. What about complex is better than simple? What do you think about that? Is that true or false? All right. In the footnotes now, even in the footnotes, there are questions. And the following is proposed. Corporate is better than personal. What do you think about that? True or false? And what about this one? Abstract is better than physical. Well, I dissent from this. In fact, I cheerfully every day here at our for-profit commercial radio station make the arguments for just the opposite. And a lot of people really believe these things, but if you put it that way, they would say, no, I don't believe those things. And so what you find is that a lot of people really believe in the ideas of local economy that I, David Toulis, your host, very mild-mannered former Times Free Press copy editor, argue for here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. And I'm a media guy here in Chattanooga. I own this radio station in God's providence, and I'm so glad that you condescend to give me just a couple minutes of your time. I wanted to mention to you the best place in town to get a used car. Buy your cars used, okay? Because the depreciation has already been eaten out of that product. And go to Automax, a car lot on Highway 58, just opposite Central High School. And the advantage there that we have found and are very excited about is the really low prices, and in the tune of $2,000 to $3,000 per high quality used car compared to other car lots. And the reason is low overhead. Louis Otero and his wife Melanie run a lean operation, and he passes on the savings to you. Call ahead. The number is 643-2886. That's 643-2886. And do me the favor, do me the courtesy, David Toulis, to mention that you have heard Louis' note here. This is an advertisement, of course, that you have heard me mention his car lot, Automax, on Nuganomics.com. And remember, that's how radio stations survive. They survive by providing a provably good service to local economy players like Automax. Also, our theory holds that if we're going to succeed and we're going to avoid the decapitalization that's ahead, or not just in marriage. Marriage, of course, is the source of capital, which is being deliberately deconstructed, deliberately demolished. If God were not in charge of things, it would really happen. But there's a decapitalization ahead. You might say bad times, if you want to put it in the vernacular. We're having bad times ahead. Financial, economic, and of course, moral and cultural. All of which, of course, bring opportunities. And the opportunities in one direction will be well aided by a man named Bruce Krebs. And he will get you, my listener, into your own business. And it's very important to have your own business and start now. Plan now. Get out of your debts. Get out of the national economy is my suggestion. Bruce Krebs, Entrepreneur Source, and the number is 875-5621. That's 875-5621. And what is the local economy view on marriage? Well, the local economy view on marriage is like the local economy view on driving. Well, maybe not driving, but using the car. I've been thinking a lot about the right to travel lately, and I'm thinking about how to be useful in this area. In fact, this evening, in God's providence, if I'm not held back, I'm going to go to do some reading on the law at UTC through the LexisNexis system there, and I've got a bunch of cases I'm going to look up, making the point that there is a common law and a local economy view about driving, and the view I have is in favor of the immigrants in our city, the strangers, the aliens who don't speak English too good and who are here working very hard for their employers and starting their own little businesses. And they're often facing harassment by police officers who think that they have to have a driver's license to use the road. Well, what about marriage? Well, marriage is is something that we should exercise in the local economy way. I know it sounds awfully strange to put it that way, but there is a local economy argument for marriage. And in a nutshell, it is that you, my listener, have a right to marry apart from anybody's permission, apart from anybody's license. And here's what a license is, according to Black's Law Dictionary: the permission by competent authority to do an act which, without such permission, would be illegal. And so we have to ask ourselves, why would it be illegal to marry in Tennessee? Can we not marry in a way, in something that God instituted? Right back in Genesis chapter 2, God instituted marriage according to the biblical history. Why would we need permission to marry? Who is it that confers the right to marry? Well, when you marry with a marriage license, you're granting the state jurisdiction over your marriage. When you marry with a marriage license, your marriage is in fact a creature of the state. Even in a case I've written about in some detail, when it says the judges say the state has an interest in marriage, what they mean is the state has a property interest, a claim upon all marriages it creates. If you become effectively your marital union becomes a corporation of the state. You have granted jurisdiction over your marriage, including the fruit thereof. What would that be? Well, that would be your children and property that you own. And according to Matt Truella, who's written about this, as I have, there's a case law, as it's called, to suggest that when you marry with a marriage license, you place yourself under a body of law. We could say that's immoral, and you're putting yourself under family court, for one, which is governed by laws that have no source in the scriptures, and often are really immoral. Under these laws, you can divorce for any reason. And there's an op-ed piece in the Chattanooga Times, for the Free Press side today, that points out why there's so much divorce. Well, there's so much divorce because family court allows divorce. Chancery allows divorce without cause, right? You don't have to. No one has to work to keep a marriage together. No one has to work. Marriage is not binding upon anybody. That was one of the earlier deconstructions of marriage. Notice I don't say Christian marriage. I just say of marriage. Marriage is not strictly belonging to Christianity. Not at all. It belongs to man in general. Man writ large, right across the world. Often the court sides with the spouse who is in rebellion to God and castigates the spouse who remains faithful by ordering him or her not to speak about the Bible or other matters of faith when present with the children. And Matt Truella, as a minister, he says he refuses to perform marriages under state license because it requires him to submit the license form to the state, and the state is in fact usurping the right of God and the family to unite two people in marriage. I would say the individuals unite in marriage with the permission of the family. And the requirements for marriage at common law anywhere are several. I think there are about 5 of them. There has to be capacity. There has to be consent. There's a proposition. The capacity, consent. Capacity would be age. You can't be an infant to marry. And consent would be each side agrees. The man proposes. The woman accepts. There has to be consummation, which means lovemaking. There has to be sexual penetration. And that's the third one. Cohabitation is another one. A man and his wife cohabit. They live in the same house. And then the 5th element is holding forth. Holding forth is where you introduce your new wife. I introduced my wife as Jeanette Toulis, and it's my wife Jeanette. And so people come to accept that my wife is Jeanette, or your wife is your wife. And that is and how did you get her? Well, you got her because her father gave her to you. In the colonial times, and probably even in the 1800s, there were marriages that were consummated by under two rules. The parents gave permission, and then there was a thing called notorious public notice, which in other words is ban the banns. You put the banns out at your church, which is a public place, and some couple weeks or so before the marriage, maybe a month before the marriage, and it says if anybody has any reason to know why these two people should not marry, they should make a public presentation of it, right? And therefore, if the woman's not a virgin, well, then he can marry her. There's some assurance that she's a virgin. And there's another point why marriage at common law should be really considered afresh. I think we should consider it as a fresh idea, and that is that it is non-polygamous. And when I've already suggested what I'm going to get at here, and that is that if the state enables a couple to marry, then it is a partner in the marriage, right? So you then have a man and a woman who marry with a third partner, the enabling partner, actually the key partner, which is the state itself, through the county clerk or through some other office, either administrative or other. And and you have to understand why the chief partner in that union is the state, because the man understands he can't possibly marry that girl without the state's permission, and the woman knows that there's no way on earth that she could marry her sweetheart unless he got permission from the state. And so each of the parties to that union look at the state as the enabler, right? And so they get permission from the state to marry, and thereby make it the main party to the marriage. And that's how the state can dissolve marriages on a whim, right? You say, well, we're married under statute, and we have no desire to be married anymore. And so the state says, okay, well, all right, I created it, and I can, without any sweat, without any struggle, I can dissolve it. Matt Trilla says Christian couples should not be marrying with state marriage licenses, nor should Christian ministers here, mind you, be marrying people with state marriage licenses. Some have said to me, he says, if someone is married without a marriage license, then they aren't actually married. Given the fact that states may soon legalize same-sex marriages, of course, it's already happened now. We need to ask ourselves, if a man and a man marry with a state marriage license, and a man and a woman marry without state marriage licenses, who is really married, right? Are Jim and Joe truly married because they have a chit from the state, from Bill Knowles, who Christian man is saying that Jim and Joe are united in marriage? Is that how that works? And yet you, my listener, your son and his girlfriend cannot marry at common law because somehow they don't have that chit from Bill Knowles, who capitulated on Friday. Is it the two men with a marriage license, or the man and woman without a marriage license? In reality, this contention that people are not married unless they obtain a marriage license, Matt Trewhella says, simply reveals how statist we are in our thinking. We need to think biblically. Of course, when he says statist, he means, of course, progressive. How progressive we are with in our thinking about marriage. Well, what about the church? The church itself is something that when it becomes a creature of the state, it loses its vitality. We're reminded of this in a story that came out a couple days ago by Mark Oppenheimer, a column at Time.com, the former Time magazine. And the headline is, "Now's the time to end tax exemptions for religious institutions." Of course, this is just the start. And the question is Christianity going to resist this whole system? And I think it probably will, maybe without really enough thinking about it. And here's what Christians who want to maintain their connection to the federal tit are forgetting, and that is that the church enjoys extraterritoriality. By that I mean the church is outside the territory of any state. It is outside any territory controlled by the national government. It is outside the territory of any king or monarch or dictatorship. Now, of course, the people in that jurisdiction may be subject to the monarch. They may be subject to Congress as U.S. persons and so on. But the church itself enjoys extraterritoriality. It is from another territory. It is like an embassy. It is not in state jurisdiction. And there is one church in Chattanooga at the moment, of which I'm aware, that is making steps to dissolve its corporate charter. And it's doing so by simply saying, well, we became a religious organization back in the 1950s. When everybody was doing it, the legal profession, the accounting profession, all rationalized why churches should become businesses, should become corporations. And one small body, Presbyterians, is saying, no, we intend to be the church of the Lord Jesus Christ. And we represent an alien interest here. We represent a king. We represent a king who has, in fact, jurisdiction over all the world, who, in fact, governs all things and has an eternal decree which operates every moment, in every car crash, in every moment of joy, every success, every bankruptcy, every 10-foot snowstorm, every football-sized hailstone. Even that is part of God's sovereign decree, even though that hailstone came from massive overflights above a storm system, creating the wonders of stratospheric aerosol geoengineering. But in the question of the church and the attack on it, there is going to be a long-term attack on it. But I think the welcome will soon wear out. The public acceptance of gay indignation, which now is joy, right? The gay indignation of being an oppressed minority now for the past 20 years. Now is joy, joy, joy. We have marriage. We have what common people have. Our sexual liaisons can be dignified with marriage. And now that the party's over, let's get to work. Well, what's the work going to be of the lug butt lobby? The work is going to be to attack. And therein lies the loss of market share, the loss of market value of gay shares. There is already going to be a run on the bank, if you will, and there is going to be a recognition that the gay attack on the church, the gay attack on small business, on florists, on writers, on editors, on all kinds of people whom they claim are going to be violating somebody's rights or other, will be gravely decapitalizing of that market, which is all about the destruction of capital and the destruction of value, will have its own shares plummet. And that will be, you might say, in the shares of public opinion, in social capital, if you will. Now, Americans have lost a great deal of social capital through the operation of cartels and elites, the 0.1% of national economy, all the people who are connected to the financial system, all the hedge fund crowd, all the gigantic banking crowd, all those people involving in betting in the great casino, the casino of national economy, where billions and billions of profit are made and nothing is created. Not one thing is created in the movement of about almost 25% of the national economy measured in dollars. Those people are facing a very difficult time. And my goal here at Nuganomics, just to change the subject, my goal here at Nuganomics.com is to get you ready, to get you to understand the proposal of local economy, the free market. That's why I can't possibly have enemies. And that's because I'm arguing for local economy. And I want you to take part in it. Now, if you need help in numbers and your small business enterprise, you want an accountant, let me recommend Eric Pelton. Eric Pelton is the numbers guy here in Chattanooga. He's a thrifty accountant, a very fine businessman, long in this field here in Chattanooga, a long time on Brainerd Road. He has an office, in fact, in Soddy Daisy, just north of the Bilo. Online, ejpelton.com. Call Eric and say, hey, Eric, I listened to Nuganomics.com and I'm thinking of starting a business. Could I meet with you for a little while to tell you about my scheme? He would love to do that. Okay, he would love to do that. Call Eric Pelton and get an appointment. You'll want him at some point for real service to you when you get bigger. The number is 622-3156. That's 622-3156. And I've got half-price pizzas on our website at the Half Price Off website, the webpage at hotnewstalkradio.com. It's for Jets Pizza. Jets Pizza. Here's what I'm offering you. You can buy $50 worth of Jets Pizza and drink all kinds of things, the deep dish, all the great pizza adornments for 2 meals, right? 2 meals at half price. Just contact the station and we'll ship that to you. It's $25 and you will get $50 in coupons from great Jets Pizza just down the road from us here. We're in Hickson. We are a Soddy Daisy station, and my name is David Toulis, and I do thank you for giving me just a couple of minutes of your time. Love your neighbor. Love your neighbor and buy local. I think this is a policy we need to start thinking about. We need to take advantage of the local multiplier effect of the locally spent dollars. Using a credit card, okay, well, if you have to, but think about this. Pay in cash to avoid the national economy tax on that transaction. Why have a mortgage on a sandwich? Good grief. just pay cash. Come on, carry some money around. Be a man. Have a couple $100 in your pocket. You know, make like you're a real person. Are you afraid of being robbed or something? Is that it? Well, street crime is off by half from the 1960s. You don't have anything to worry about. You're a man, after all. You listen to Nuganomics.com.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Are you calling me yeller? Them's is fighting words.
Being called yellow, not a compliment. Yellow, the international symbol for caution. Yellow. You certainly wouldn't want to eat yellow snow. Yuck. We typically avoid yellow. So why would you put your hard-earned money into an outdated, expensive, slower yellow page? Or even trust their advice? Especially when your hard-earned advertising dollars could go much further, earning you greater profits, using the multifaceted resources and expertise of Chattanooga Web Services. You want real results for your advertising dollars. The local Chattanooga media experts, Chattanooga Web Services, will help your business grow, utilizing diversified media resources. That's affordable to you, whether it involves the internet's World Wide Web, video, audio, or modern-day print. So don't get sucked into the yellow folks trying to upsell you into spending even more money as it ventures into a territory unfamiliar to them, the internet. Call Chattanooga Web Services, 424-3373. That's 424-3373. Or go to ChattanoogaWebServices.com, ChattanoogaWebServices.com.
Don't worry, just relax. You need a car? Come to AutoMax.
My wife and I keep the cost down. We sell a quality vehicle at a great price. Our overhead is low. I have no employees, so I can keep my costs down. In turn, the consumer gets a better price. Everything that I sell is emission ready. We really try to go the extra mile for our customer. I don't have to pay an employee commission. I don't have to pay somebody to come out here and wash my cars. You know, I do it all from buying to selling from A to Z. I don't have the overhead where I have to raise the price on my vehicle to cover costs. Here at AutoMax, you're going to guarantee that you get credit. As long as you're making those payments, you're going to build on your credit. Unlike the buy here, pay here's where they don't report to credit bureaus, we report to all three credit bureaus. The subprime lenders that we deal with, you don't have to have any credit, or you can have bad credit. You can even have a bankruptcy, a repossession.
Don't worry, just relax. You need a car? Come to AutoMax.
AutoMax, across from Central High on Highway 58 in Harrison. AutoMax, 643-2886. That's 643-2886. Go to AutoMaxChat.com. That's AutoMaxChat.com.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Surgery does not have to be financially painful. Hi, I'm Surgical Dr. David Red, and I'd like to invite you to my walk-in surgery clinic in North Shore. Quick Surge brings you immediate relief from moles, skin tags, maybe a laceration. Quick Surge. You walk in, fill out a mini form, I numb the area I'll treat, and before you know it, you're on your way home. Do I take insurance? No, because I take cash customers. I have super low and fixed prices, credit card, check, or cash. Uninsured, member of the working financially disadvantaged, choose Quick Surge. I publish prices online. No mirth, just sunshine. Hassle-free, pain-free. Love the idea of a personal relationship with a doctor? Drop in with a nasty cut from work. Quick Surge, I'll take care of you. Quick Surge in the Public Center on the North Shore. No insurance hassles with Quick Surge. The national medical system is dysfunctional, overpriced, very alienating. I'm part of the solution, and so are you. Come on home. QuickSurge.com. QuickSurg. Relief.
Here you are, working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Saudi Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156.
All systems go.
Got a printing project on deadline? Advantage Printing in Brainerd offers the highest quality one-stop service in Chattanooga. Graphic design, printing, addressing. Don't create a mailer unless you first check with Alan about the latest postal hassle. He'll handle the whole thing for you. Advantage Printing. Your advantage is in our name. 4031 Brainerd Road, next to the byline.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga. CBS News, I'm Harley Carnes. Late word on captured prisoner David Sweat from Albany Medical Center in New York. His condition is improving, now in fair condition. Meanwhile, at the maximum security prison he and fellow convicted murderer Richard Matt vacated for more than 3 weeks, there are some changes.
They're clearing house essentially here. 3 members of the executive team, 9 security staff employees, all placed on administrative leave while this review is ongoing.
That's CBS's Anna Werner. New Jersey Governor Chris Christie makes it 14 Republicans who are in the running for the White House.
We are going to tell it like it is today so that we can create greater opportunity for every American tomorrow. The truth will set us free, everybody.
President Obama says the goal of nuclear talks with Iran is to cut off Tehran from being able to have a nuclear weapon and to make that process verifiable.
I've said from the start, I will walk away from the negotiations if, in fact, it's a bad deal.
The framework for a deal has not resulted in one yet. Today was the deadline. They've agreed to extend talks to July 7th. President Obama plans to order a change in federal overtime rules through the Labor Department, which would make 5 million more people eligible for OT. CBS News business analyst Jill Schlesinger.
You could see a bunch of employers say, hold on, we're going to limit your hours, and you're going to take a hit to your income as a result.
The president says his plan merely adjusts for inflation since 2004. In Liberia, authorities have set up a quarantine in a region where a 17-year-old boy has died of Ebola. It's a new case, and fear ran through the town like a hot breeze. Thus far, officials don't know where he caught it. With the July 4th holiday weekend coming, a AAA report on travel and prices.
AAA's Michael Green says lower gas prices have saved Americans $65 billion on gas so far this year.
Lots of people are using those savings to take a road trip.
About 42 million Americans are traveling 50 miles or more for Independence Day, and more than 35 million will be behind the wheel.
Most Americans are going to pay the cheapest gas prices for July 4th in at least 5 years.
Today's national average is $2.77 per gallon. The cheapest gas right now is in South Carolina at $2.44, and the most expensive at $3.48 is in Alaska. Allison Keyes, CBS News.
On Wall Street, the Dow's up 67 points. NASDAQ has gained 40. Oil about $59 and change a barrel. Misty Copeland has been named a principal dancer at American Ballet Theater, the first black woman to achieve that status in the company's history. This is Misty Copeland from a 60 Minutes interview.
Something happens when you feel that energy and excitement from the audience, and you do, 4 pirouettes. You jump higher than you ever have.
Copeland just about a week ago made her debut in Swan Lake. This is CBS News.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance? There's a tremendous price war among the major term life companies. Rates have dropped dramatically in the past few years. For example, a man age 45 non-tobacco user, $1 million of coverage, $75 per month level rate for the next 10 years. Or a man age 50 non-tobacco can obtain $500,000 of coverage for a monthly premium of only $110 per month, guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. That's right, level rate guaranteed not to change for the next 20 years. If you're a smoker, we have great rates available for you as well. At Term Busters, we specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. If you're looking for new or replacement term life insurance, call today for a quote at 1-800-569-5440. That's 1-800-569-5440. You're probably paying more than you should. Call Term Busters, 1-800-569-5440, or visit our website at termbusters.net. Remember, 1-800-569-5440. Rates and availability may vary by state. Sample rate quotes based on preferred non-tobacco underwriting. Exam required to qualify.
Clean it up, say the officials at Wimbledon. Players need to leave their X-rated language in the street, not bring it to the courts.
Play has barely begun, and already the umpires are crying foul, but they're referring to the language. 5-time champion Serena Williams handed a code violation for an audible obscenity, which can carry a $20,000 fine. Australian star Nick Kyrgios and British newcomer Liam Brody also warned about the stiff penalties for violating Wimbledon decorum. One dice center, 3-time Wimbledon champ John McEnroe. He thinks fiery exchanges are all part of the fun. Vicki Barker, CBS News.
In Queens, New York, the bank robber got away on 4 wheels, 2 large ones in the back and 2 little bitty ones in the front of his wheelchair. The man in the chair gave the teller a hold-up note and wheeled away with about $1,200, last seen headed down Broadway. There is no word why security didn't just chase him down on foot. Harley Carnes, CBS News.
Are you paying too much for term life insurance?
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
There's a professor at Central Connecticut State University, Glenn Sunshine, who says that the decision by the High Court doesn't so much redefine marriage as abolish it. He says in every culture throughout history, the single unifying characteristic of marriage has been that it is ultimately about connecting fathers and mothers to each other and to their children so that children can be brought into the world and raised in a stable environment, and that it is an essential role for the survival of society. Well, to reflect on some of these developments with you and me here at Nooganomics.com is Mark West, who is the president of the Chattanooga Tea Party. And we want to, there's news here in Chattanooga. Chris Anderson, the city council member, is going to be reintroducing apparently this evening at the city council meeting a non-discrimination ordinance that went down when the gay partner benefits ordinance was overturned by a public plebiscite last year. This is David Toulis, and our show is Nooganomics.com. Mark, tell us about this decision, this opinion out of Washington. What is your take overall on it? What is my listener to make of it?
Well, I've seen words, I've seen phrases that I think perhaps would shed some light on what many of us believe happened last Friday. And judicial activism, judicial tyranny, those are a couple of phrases that have been fairly prevalent, and I would tend to agree with that. You had, in essence, 5 men/women in black robes that have, in essence, changed the whole course of our country, the whole direction of our country, but not just our country. Really, they've taken a word that has been around since the beginning of time, marriage, the union of one woman and one man, and they've attempted to redefine it. I say attempt because no man can redefine what is natural, okay? That'd be like saying, well, we don't like the fact that when you drop a stone from a building, it goes down. So we're going to redefine gravity and say that gravity now includes going sideways and going up. And so it's a little bit silly for 5 men to do that. But unfortunately, they've done that, 5 men and women. They've done it. And so we're now stuck with trying to deal with this in reality.
It is just an opinion that applies to the parties in the case. But it said in the opinion, it said that we are overturning marriage in all these states as everyone has known it, and we are redefining it. Well, and what is the effect going to be on my listener and his family and his assets? What long-term things do you see in this attack on marriage?
Well, I would think one of the things you read right at the outset, the phrase caught my mind, or the word caught my mind, is stable communities. And marriage is the building block of a stable community. Marriage is. And so when we begin to take a word that means a union of a man and a woman to raise up, to procreate and raise up new citizens, okay, new voters, new individuals who are going to contribute to that society, if we all of a sudden break apart and take apart that building block, we no longer have a stable community. Now look around our country. Look around Chattanooga. Look downtown Chattanooga. Would anyone use the word stable to describe downtown Chattanooga?
So you're saying that already marriages and homes are destabilized greatly?
Yes. I mean, this shouldn't go from a perfectly unified community to just destruction overnight. This has been chipping away for years and years and decades, and this is just the culmination of what we've been seeing all along. You can go back to the no-fault or easy divorce laws, which started this, or even before that. But certainly that was one of the major stones that was thrown at this building block that began to crumble it. And so now this is the culmination. I wouldn't say it's the end, but it's the culmination of what we've been seeing for several decades. Really, we need to look at ourselves to blame for this, not to really 5 men and women in robes. They're just simply mirroring what our society already is beginning to accept. Okay, so they're doing the popular thing. They're populist in essence, but in reality, we look to ourselves. We must look to ourselves and say, where did we go wrong? What did we miss? How did we contribute to this? And I would say, in many instances, you look to our churches and you look and see that families are broken in our churches. Our churches are not speaking out on this. Not just now, not just last year, but for decades. And so, I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to do in terms of self-introspection and looking at what were the contributors, but we also have to look forward to see, okay, how do we deal with this? What is it that we're now going to, how is it we're going to now deal with this going forward?
What is Chris Anderson proposing?
Well, what's interesting, people will remember who have been listening to your show or reading the headlines for the last couple of years. They'll remember that Chris Anderson led an effort a couple of years ago to try to, in fact, he did pass a domestic partner ordinance with the help of several of his councilmen and women. Included in that domestic partner ordinance was a non-discrimination clause. He could have separated those two. He was asked to, but he merged them together. And you'll recall that immediately after that ordinance was passed, there was a movement in Chattanooga to secure 4,500 votes. In fact, it ended up nearly 10,000 votes, over 10,000, but to overturn this ordinance and put it on the ballot. And of course, if anyone's been awake the last year, they know that in August of last year, this domestic partner ordinance and non-discrimination clause was defeated. They were not just overturned, they were defeated. They were squashed.
So both of those provisions together, the domestic partner benefits and the egalitarian treatment ordinance.
Exactly. They were both defeated. And so you would, of course, like to think that that was the end of it, but we know that that is never the case when people are committed to their cause, so they'll come back for another shot at it. So that's what's happened now is Mr. Anderson, Councilman Anderson, has separated those two things. Obviously, the domestic partner ordinance is a dead issue. I don't see how he could possibly think that could ever get passed. But the non-discrimination clause in ordinance now is what's on the table. It's very popular these days all over the country. These discrimination ordinances are popping up everywhere.
Well, frame for my listener the most favorable arguments that my listener might hear about such an ordinance. What are the arguments that would be made in its favor? And then once you list a couple of those or three of those, what are the reasons against its passage?
Well, okay, of course, who would ever want to be accused of discriminating? I mean, it's certainly in our country, we don't want to discriminate, and we don't discriminate. We attempt not to discriminate. Of course, yesterday I went to Cracker Barrel with my wife, and we sat down at the menu, and there were like 100 items on the menu. I picked one. So in essence, discriminated against 99 of the items on the menu, and I chose one. I discriminated, okay? Obviously, you may chuckle, or we may think that's lighthearted. That's not what we're talking about, but we do all discriminate in some way or another. What we're talking about here, though, is not discriminating against someone who is different than us sexually, okay, who has different views sexually. It could be homosexuals, it could be transgenders, it could be however you wake up and feel that day. That's what Chris Anderson is trying to include into this particular non-discrimination clause. So if someone comes to work for or applies for a job at the city of Chattanooga, the person interviewing them for a job there would not look across the table and say, you look like you're a homosexual, I'm not going to hire you. Of course, we would never want that to be the case. And I would challenge our listeners as well as Chris Anderson to determine whether that has been going on. Is that a prevalent problem in the city of Chattanooga?
Prior to the passage of the ordinance earlier, he claimed, and others claimed that gays are living in terror in Chattanooga. They're afraid of losing their jobs. They're afraid of harassment. They're afraid of negative comments. Their professional careers are at stake. And the idea offered to the public is that, well, a gay man or a gay woman is always vulnerable. And I just couldn't quite believe that. It seems to me that Americans I've met are so generous and kind. They would not. They're bending over backwards. That's how come gays have such popularity in the polls. That Americans are a gracious people, willing to live and let live.
Absolutely. We are exactly that. And you can look to one example that on November 9/11/2001, our country was attacked by Islam and certainly purveyors of radical Islam. And yet look at how our country has embraced Muslims. I mean, certainly there's concern throughout our country about some of the Muslim ideology, Islamic ideology, but we embrace Muslims, okay? We open our doors to them. So we are a very generous, caring, compassionate people. And likewise, when you talk about the homosexual community, look at our TVs. Look at any show. Turn it on any night of the week, and you'll see they are so popular. They're presented in such a popular fashion. Go to Facebook. If you say one thing against the lifestyle of homosexuality, what are you labeled as? A bigot or worse words. So the issue is not, I don't think, that homosexuals are targeted. If anything, I would say it's the other way. Anyone who has any views that might differ slightly, they are the ones that are singled out and targeted.
We're talking with Mark West, the president of the Chattanooga Tea Party. This is David Tulis, and thank you for giving us a couple of minutes here at Nuganomics.com. Mark, what is the public mood in light of the harsh attacks against the South, the Southern flag, agrarian culture, and Southern mores and Southern Christianity, and at the same time, the ruling against marriage? What has that done to the public mood, and how might that public mood be either useful or not useful in efforts in the near future to perhaps stop the Chris Anderson ordinance change?
Well, I think you have some conflicting messages here on the public mood. If you look back over several decades, I think the general direction of the public mood is one of apathy, one of sitting back. I've got more important things to do. I'm not going to get involved. Someone else will do it. There's more of us than there is of them. So it's this sentiment of, I don't really have to get involved. But every now and then you see an issue that boils to the top. Okay, we saw that in April of 2009 when the nation came together. Millions of people around the country came together and said, enough is enough. We're taxed enough already, TEA. And the Tea Party movement was launched. Okay, and that's been a very positive thing for our nation, despite the fact that many would decry otherwise. But then you see situations like this that had just happened on Friday. And I'm seeing in social media and other communication I'm having, I'm seeing there's this boiling underneath, there's this boiling anger to some extent. And I don't really like to respond in anger to things like this, because I think when we respond in anger, we do things and say things that ultimately we might be sorry for. We might regret. So I think anger is righteous anger, means perhaps might be good, but lashing out I don't view as righteous anger. I think it should drive us, this concern over where we're headed should drive us to do something, but not to just spew out venom and frustration towards the people we think are the cause of this. Again, I say, the homosexual movement and the homosexual agenda is not why we're where we are today. You and I, folks, if you're a conservative, if you're a Christian, if you're someone who is not a supporter of, say, Barack Obama, you and I are the reason why we're where we're at today. It's not the homosexual agenda, and it's not even Barack Obama.
Well, it may be. The one problem is that the Christianity has kind of lost some of its salt and savor, being a bit more private and more self-centered than it needs to be, not having its public face out. So the public mood is the public mood that is in favor of the South, we could say in favor of traditional morals and marriage, has been energized in the past 2 weeks, and people are feeling they're feeling sort of under pressure and maybe even under oppression. So to get back to the question, Mark West, is it likely that people will rush to help you, or will you just be one man in a phone and trying to generate interest? Are people becoming apathetic because the past 2 weeks have just had blow after blow against people like my listener? And is he just going to say, well, I guess we've lost it, there's nothing we can do?
Well, I see.
Be apathetic.
I mean, I see one answer to that question would be this. This particular response from Christians to me just irks me. Sorry, but it does. Because when a Christian says, well, we know how it's all going to end, okay, and we know who ultimately wins, and the Lord is coming back soon, I'm thinking, oh, really? Do you have kind of an inside track to God and you have the date? I mean, people have been saying that since Christ ascended into the clouds. The reality is we don't know when that is going to happen. It could be tomorrow. It could be 10 years from now. It could be in our grandchildren's lifetime. We don't know. And so to use that, in my view, is a little bit of a cop-out to say, I don't really have to do anything because it's all going to work out.
So what's a better line of reasoning for such a person?
I think a better line of reasoning is Christ said, occupy till I come. Oh, I almost hate to use that word because it has a negative connotation these days, occupy. But what he was saying was we have to be salt and light in our community. I posted a little image on Facebook yesterday. It just hit me that we have darkness that's coming over our nation, okay? And so I posted a picture that was completely black. It was just a color black. And I talked about, are you being the light that you and I should be in our community? If not, this is what happens, blackness, okay? And so really, we have to be engaged. Now, you said, am I just going to be one man on the phone? Let me say, there's a lot of people that are involved in this effort, okay? And tonight, there's an opportunity to come down at 6 o'clock to the city council meeting on Lindsay Street and show up. You don't have to say anything. Sometimes just showing up is enough. You say something by being there and present, with your presence, smiling, looking happy, looking involved, and looking engaged. So I would say do that, because I've already seen where Councilman Anderson has already rallied his people to come down and wear their red T-shirts and show up and make a little bit of rah, rah, rah. We're for this ordinance.
Mark West, is there any means of resistance to this this tide against the family and against marriage? Is there anything that people like my listener can do?
Yeah, well, first of all, you can do something beyond just, it's great that you're listening to this show. Keep listening to it every day. But also get involved in, first of all, if you go to church, get involved in your church. Make sure your church is not apathetic. There's too many churches. When we rallied this effort last year and a half ago for the petition, it was amazing how many churches refused to get involved. They would not. Find a church. If the church you're involved in will not get involved, find another church. Okay, get involved in a community of body of believers who are truly engaged and making a difference. And I don't mean go out there with pots and pans and start clanking them together. No, do it in a Christ-like manner, but get engaged. I mean, our organization is one you can get in, but there's plenty of other organizations. I'm not here to toot our horn and rah-rah for our organization.
Now, what's the name of the group that was not the Tea Party, but the other group that was part of the ordinance effort last time?
Really, the group that I led was Citizens for Government Accountability and Transparency, the CGAT for short. And CGAT is a local organization that several of us lead and are involved in trying to unite our community, regardless of racial background, regardless even of theological background. What's interesting is I have some lesbian friends who have been together for over a decade, and they signed the petition. They were against the domestic partner ordinance. Okay, so just because you're gay or homosexual doesn't mean that you necessarily agree with this. Some people, regardless of their sexual orientation, do understand that the building block of any stable society, community, nation is the family. And the family is not just whatever you choose to decide it will be. I mean, you'll recall, David, that right after this passed, people started saying what we've been saying all along for many years, and that is that this is just step one. There's many more steps. Okay, why should we stop at homosexual marriage? Why not polygamy? You know, why not threesomes, foursomes, whatever? And so this is the direction that our country is headed. You and I can sit back and let it go there and be a part of the problem, or we can step up. And your first opportunity to step up is tonight. Come down at 6 o'clock tonight. Be a part of the solution. It doesn't mean we'll win every time, but it means you are standing up, speaking out, and being counted.
So just for the listener who just joined us, Mark West, there's a proposal from Chris Anderson, the city councilman, in a nutshell. What is he wanting to do?
Well, it's called a non-discrimination ordinance, and this ordinance would, in essence, ensure, okay, that homosexuals, transgenders, and other type of sexually non-traditional types would not be discriminated against. And of course, we don't want people to be discriminated against it. But what does this lead to? Some of the concerns that some of us have had, would this result in, if someone feels like they're a woman someday in one of the City of Chattanooga buildings, but they're a man in reality, but they feel like a woman, they dress like a woman that day, will they walk into the women's bathroom while your daughter or your wife or your mother are in there and being private, and all of a sudden this man walks in who's dressed as a woman? Obviously, we want to make sure that this non-discrimination ordinance would not allow those types of things to happen.
Well, this is David Toulis. Our show is Nooganomics.com. We're talking with Mark West, the president of the Chattanooga Tea Party, who's been very active in defending marriage and, you might say, the Christian theory of life, what we could identify as the traditional theory of life and family. Mark, thank you for joining my listener and me here at Nooganomics.com.
Thank you. It's been great to be here.
If my listener wants to contact you, how does he do it?
Email me at mark@ChattanoogaTeaParty.com.
That's mark@ChattanoogaTeaParty.com. This is David Toulis, and we are wanting to recommend that you join Trade Bank of Chattanooga Trade Bank, where you can barter in a smart way. The number is 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Right now, you can save half off at hotnewstalkradio.com. Go to hotnewstalkradio.com and click half off for exceptional deals on new and pre-owned unique quality items for Hamilton County residents only. Save half off at Jet's Pizza, golf clubs, coffee, tea, a real sword, jewelry, and much more. It's half off. Go to half off at hotnewstalkradio.com right now, then click on half off to save big. Be sure to join us live Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays at 11 a.m. as we bring you lots of fantastic deals right here, AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. HotNewsTalkRadio.com and half off. Surf our site and ride the wave of savings. We've got a table here at Delia's in Soddy Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Soddy Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Soddy, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Coverage continues Sunday here at Live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
When my brother and I opened our first Jet's Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300 plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
I'd probably run for president of the southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingram, Dennis Miller, David Toulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. President Obama and his Brazilian counterpart hoping to move past tensions over spying in their face-to-face at the White House, stressing the potential of economic
American
ties.
companies will have more opportunities to compete for projects to develop Brazil's highways, airports, ports, and railways. We'll make it easier and more affordable for companies to hire workers in each other's countries.
Brazilian President Dilma Rousseff calling the relationship with the U.S. on an upward trajectory. The Food and Drug Administration weighing new restrictions on liquid nicotine products, one popular use in e-cigarettes.
The FDA is considering putting new warnings on the packaging and making it child-resistant, responding to an increase in nicotine poisonings nationwide with more emergency room visits.
Fox Radio's Dave Anthony. And the governor of California signs one of the strictest school vaccination bills into law. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
If Governor Jerry Brown of California understood what he was doing and that he needs to defend the educational cartel, he would have signed the vaccination decree, which has the state no longer recognizing the religious exemption that parents offer, demanding to be exempted from the rule applying to all others for vaccination of inmates of public schools. And what will happen now is that thousands and thousands of families will go to the free market. They will either leave the state and go into some other state's state-run factory school in Wyoming or Utah or Oregon, Washington, and or they will go into the free market where there is a cornucopia of offerings and services, particularly in the home education sector, which is very rapidly growing and served by the best in the marketplace, where the best products rise to the surface, the best services, the best programs, the best presentations of everything from economics to biology. And often it's online, right? Many of these things are free and online. Think about Khan Academy and how it got started, undermining the whole cartel theory, the whole phony premise of modern schooling, that knowledge is extremely rare. And the only place you can get it is in a school where there's a person standing and giving orders about what you're supposed to think and how you're supposed to behave. Her class really a form of behavior modification. And that's how it's been seen since the time of Professor Thorndike back in the 1910s and the 1920s, when he developed the animal theory of human life and human conduct, called behaviorism. Well, one more success, if we will, for the free market, where people in agony are going to have to leave the free system and they're going to have to try the real world out there and actually pay for what they're ordering. But homeschooling, since so much is free, so many things are whole volumes, whole curricula are free online. It can actually be a very inexpensive offering. But the thing that's so hard is that these parents are going to have to actually give of their time to their children, something they've been freed from as any kind of obligation. They haven't had to think about their children. They haven't had to care about their children's religious upbringing, their intellectual upbringing. They've delegated that to the experts of the California county school system where they live. And so now the desire to avoid poisoning your infants, your children with vaccinations is going to be throwing thousands of students into the marketplace where they're going to be well served if there is the desire to teach, the desire to learn, and the desire to study with your child. Then the world suddenly opens up, and you, the adult, can learn new things. In fact, here in Chattanooga, there's a thriving educational free market of which I've been a part for some time, My name is David Toulis, and I'm the editor of Nuganomics.com, the website for the man who matters, right? The man who matters. There are not very many of them. That's why I'm never going to win a popularity contest. And here I am, owner of our radio station, which is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. I do thank you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time. The idea that that's really kind of shown itself with some strength today is that corporations are at war with you. And I finally saw the website yesterday that thousands and thousands of people have been commenting on, and that is the corporations that when the High Court overturned federalism and overturned the Constitution and our system of decentralized government and states' rights, where there were just hundreds of cheers from corporations which flew the gay flag, which really is a flag of that really shows God's mercy upon mankind. The gays have taken that over, and I think the Lord is probably laughing at them that they are flying His flag over their parades. Whole Foods had a kind of an orgasm of fruit and veggies all laid out like a rainbow. Right? Gap was involved in this. The Starbucks flew the poofter flag. Kellogg's cereal, Jell-O, Maytag. The Maytag company had two repairmen perfect together. Perfect together. I hope they're not doing it on company time, though. Cheerios also was involved. Coca-Cola with its row of colored bottles. Uber, the ride-sharing organization. Tylenol had two touching dudes, one hirsute man with a ponytail holding a baby. Sears had the double ring, the marriage rings with the Noahic color scheme. Pepsi also tied two white socks with very rainbow-colored elastics. MasterCard, Netflix. Netflix had a couple of old goofs kissing over a sandwich and tea. Maybe it looked like maybe kind of a European-style restaurant. And clearly, national economy idea and making a national economy argument. There is no distinction between a man and a woman marrying. How is it, I wonder, that Jim refers to Joe as his husband? Does Joe refer to Jim as his husband, or is Jim the wife? What happens if you have two couples? One is a husband and wife, and one is a husband and husband. How does the man who is a wife hide the fact that he has a penis and male organs of generation? How does that make him the wife? How does that work exactly? This is a mystery. And no doubt here at Nuganomics.com, we will have ample opportunity to explore these wonders that are part of our new reality, lug butt reality, that is involved in a great debt. Okay, we have to understand that the war on capital, the war on capitalism, the war on character is a part of a market crash. It's a market crash culturally and legally. Of course, it will bring endless litigation and immense confusion. Think for a second about how that works. When a court opinion, which is all it is, an opinion, suddenly vacates laws. Laws, constitutional amendments, are suddenly, quote, vacated. Well, there needs to be a bit of testosteronal resistance, I think, in the county clerk somewhere. One in Tennessee has said his office will no longer marry, but a gay survey in Tennessee suggests that most county clerks are complying with the opinion. The opinion is law, but how does that work? How is it that you have an opinion that vacates whole bodies of law? Where does the vacating end? How far does it reach down into the body of law? The body of what's called case law, which is to say all the opinions that went before the great orgy of opinion that is the gay ruling Friday. How does that ruling, if it is law, how does it counteract and contradict and nullify and make void actual laws that are going to probably be left there by their legislatures? How does that work? How do we know what to do, right? If we believe in positive law, how do we know what to do if suddenly laws are vacated? Now, my own thinking as a Christian is not that positive law is the end of all things. I think that probably a culture of character doesn't need many laws at all. Probably could model model its law code after the scriptures, which is how the colonies were founded, right? The colonies in their body of laws were very short and often lifted verbatim from Deuteronomy and Leviticus. And 201 made buggery a capital offense. Buggery being, of course, the great delight of the homosexual male in his pursuing his license, his sexual license. That is his high art form. Now part of his marital union and part of his true self, right? Recognized by courts and states and county clerks, blessed in his dear affection for his partner, blessed with a long life together, and maybe even a liberal Christian minister to say fine things and quote the Bible there at the nuptials. Well, my name is David Toulis, and our show is Nuganomics.com. Wanted to mention that we are a station that favors local economy, and we want you to favor local economy too. Go to eat out. How about at Delia's? Delia's is an authentic Mexican restaurant in the southern part of Soddy Daisy, just near the Thrasher Light on Dayton Pike. Dayton Pike, the road that runs up to the old Soddy town. Soddy and Daisy combined together, and back in the 60s, and are now one municipal corporation. And Delia's is on the south side there, and there's always a special. And the special today is the taco platter number 28 on the menu. Now mention it's $4.99, $1 off. Mention the radio station, and you'll get a free iced tea. Make a point of it, okay? Make a point of saying a nice word or two of that you might say a customer, right? You're a customer of AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, the station to which Sean Hannity made the jump, and to which my listener's friend, needs to make the jump too. He's tired of what he's hearing and not very explorative with his search button. He needs to move up and to the right there on the AM dial. And want to mention Advantage Printing. Just by the way, we are very glad to give homeschool printing business to Alan Jones at Advantage, which is on Brainerd Road near the Belvoir Light, right near the Bilo there. Alan Jones is your advantage, knows all things about printing, in-house design. Large format projects are a specialty now at Advantage. Call 629-1800, 629-1800. And make sure that you get a Jets Pizza coupon, half price. You can get $25, $50 in pizza for $25. I had a late morning encounter with Steve Bondico, who's an entrepreneur, kind of a serial entrepreneur, and a homeschool man. As a young boy, he was a homeschooled son, and now as his own man. I think he's married with children. And I can't get into all what he's throwing at me, but there's something exciting that we're gonna look at, and I want to just give it kind of a teaser of his analysis. He's proposing a farm incubator like the business incubator off of Fraser Ave down on the North Shore. And it would be a way where farmers can coalesce, where they can, using the digital architecture of the internet, find their customers without having to become middlemen themselves, without having to be involved in transportation or storing, right? What is, after all, a food store? Well, a store is a place where things are stored, right? A store is where things are gathered together for convenience. So a store, we take the word store usually as grocery store. That's how I hear it. But actually, the word store is a verb, to store, and a store is that assemblage of things kept for the future. And without having to become store managers, store owners, can farmers aggregate? Can they use some kind of electronic aggregation means? Now, there's an essay with a noted free market-oriented farmer, a man who believes in food freedom, who has a book, a recent book that's called "Everything I Wanted to Do Is Illegal." That's the title of Joel Salatin's most recent edition. He's a very famous farmer. He's sought around the world as a speaker and a writer. And there's an interview published at peakprosperity.com. That's peakprosperity.com, and it's The Pursuit of Food Freedom, a right worth fighting for. So you see, local economy and local food, which we like to talk about sometimes, is not just about an opportunity. It's about a fight. It is a fight. And as he explains it in the part of this interview that I was able to read this morning, is that that there are opportunities for integrity food. Now that's how Salatin describes local food, and the local food economy is integrity food, and those people who provide it, and those people maybe like you, my listener, are involved in. You want integrity food, so you, I hope, are going to the farmer's market near you, or if you're not doing it, that you are strongly encouraging your wife to help break out of the habit of shopping the store. The store itself is under threat, according to Salatin, and it's under threat. Supermarkets came about in 1946, he says, and we all think in terms of the store. We're all part of this system of not just of life and custom, but of thinking. We think about food as coming from the store. He says, well, let's see, I've been in this for decades, and one of the neatest thing he says that's possible now is that you can actually find a lot of what I call integrity food opportunities in locales that were not available 20 years ago, even 10 years ago. And so one of probably the most exciting things that's happening right now is in the local food movement is what I call electronic aggregation. What's happening is, and this gets a little bit maybe futuristic, but I want you to think that the supermarket as we know it is only, supposedly the first one came out in 1946, and since that time, of course, it has taken over more and more of the food purchasing thing. But it has built up around it a tremendous amount of impediments to integrity food, hurdles, and a bureaucracy. He tells in the interview how he met with some Walmart people, and they said, what can we do to get people like you to sell food in our big caverns? And he said, how can we get your food in? He said, well, the first thing you need to do is let something smaller than a tractor trailer back up to your dock. And then he goes on to say, end of discussion. They couldn't even fathom a food system in which you would transport anything smaller than a tractor trailer. He goes on to say, and so what we're seeing is, as the cost of virtual supermarkets, electronic buying, as the cost of that drops and drops and drops, where even small companies and small outfits, individuals can glom on, can use the software, we're seeing now the proliferation of what I call electronic aggregation, where 30 farms, 40 farms, 50 farms in a region can all get all of their products into one shopping cart site. And people can order online local products or go visit the farms, vet the farms themselves, and a little bit of recreational investment, and then become really loyal customers and literally shop online, but from local integrity producers. And that's very exciting. Steve Bonico says the creation of a farm incubator would allow, and this is what Steve Bonico is trying to accomplish, from what I understand. I've only chatted with him briefly about this, and I'm trying to nail him, get him on my calendar. Well, actually, I'm trying to get on his calendar. What am I saying? And he's a very busy man. He said it would allow for farmers to take the next step from hired hand on another farm to tenant farmer at the incubator, empowering aspiring farmers to become food producers for the city, right? They become food producers for Chattanooga. A farm incubator would operate much like the very successful business incubator does in Chattanooga. There will be multiple tenants on a parcel. These tenants would operate their own farming business, yet share some major resources. The concentration of farmers in an incubator model would allow for the building or transportation infrastructure. See, that's what I think we're lacking that here. There's not really enough infrastructure. Concentration would also allow for farmers to share the cost of bringing in bulk materials, so compost and fertilizer, and thus reducing the cost of farming in serious ways. At the end of the farmer's term in the incubator, they will have had a chance to really experience farming without all of the risks. Right? They launch farms in the incubator. The farmer gains brand recognition, experience, and confidence to continue farming. Obviously, he goes elsewhere. The city gains another qualified cohort of farmers dedicated to feeding the people in a sustainable and locally important way. This is Steve Bonico here writing this. The time is right for a local effort to support farming in real ways. Sure, buying local produce helps farmers and builds the local economy. Sure, donating to local agricultural nonprofits helps spread the word about the importance of healthy local food production. And I think here he's referring to the food hub, which is part of the Chattanooga Food Bank. Sure, we can all feel good about the progress we have made as a city toward utilizing local food in season. Those things are great, but how do we push forward and really support the farms of the future? I propose we do so through incubating micro farms. So this is an idea from Steve Bonico, for which I think he's looking for an audience. I think Steve is trying to find an audience here in Chattanooga for this very concept. And I see this is what you, my listener, need to think about. You, my listener, I know you're a capitalist. I know you are. And, I would like you to think about where you can invest local capital. Divest national, right? Divest. Divest national and invest local. Invest here, right? Invest here. Put your money in Chattanooga. Bring your money home and invest it. Now, by the way, I'm just like you to think about investing in my radio station. I'm a capitalist too. I'm an entrepreneur and a capitalist. And in fact, I'm looking for capital right now for Hot News Talk Radio. Joel Salatin, in his interview with Chris Martinson at peakprosperity.com, talks about an effort in Virginia called Relay Foods, where it is so exciting that even organic grocers are feeling threatened. Now think about that. You think organic grocers are the next wave, right? After the factory food grocery chain, right? You got your Harvest grocery in Chattanooga, for example. Even grocery stores are feeling threatened by the next wave in local economy and local food. He says, and I think they're getting like 3,000 chickens and 600 turkeys from us this year, and they collaborate with a whole lot of farmers. Now, obviously, supermarkets are very unhappy about this. They don't like this, and including even organic type markets are very upset about this. But the fact is that a consumer-friendly, licensed Main Street facade that's a brick-and-mortar retail interface is an expensive meeting place. And brick-and-mortar, as you know, he's quoting here Kevin Kelly, the editor of Wired magazine, who has a new book, New Rules for the New Economy, several years ago. And one of the things he talks about there is that the mass of everything is going down. The physical weight of the bricks and mortar weight of everything is dropping as everything becomes more information dense in cyberspace. So the muscle car of the 60s has been replaced by a car that has a microchip computers in its brake calipers. A 120-pound secretary has been replaced by a 4-ounce mail router. We've gone from mass and physical presence and physical size to the web, to stuff that doesn't weigh anything. Data on the internet doesn't weigh anything. But he points out that there could be a danger here, and this is the internet danger that I've thought about, and I don't know if I've expressed it, but that is that if you have all these relationships online, the local farmer and the local buyer, which is to say you, my listener, maybe your wife, where is the local economy? Where's the heart? Where is the acquaintance? Where are the new interactions, the friendships that can be made as they are in a farmer's market? Do we want local economy to become so efficient, so digitized, so corporate, if you will, that we don't have what we have now, which is a fruit of local economy, which is to say the farmers markets. Now, the farmers markets are 10 or 15 years old, and that movement, the Back to the Earth movement, which has been going on since the 50s, I guess, is prospering, and I think it's probably getting better, and it is gaining adherence. But we don't want it to suddenly fizzle out into a series of pluses and minuses, which is the digital world and the digital economy. We don't want to have everything brought to our door, right? Isn't there something nice about going to the farm, as I'm suggesting you do to some of my guests, right? Some of my guests here at Nuganomics.com have a relationship with a farmer. Go out of town. Drive down a road you've never been before into countryside that you do not recognize and go to the farm where you are going to start buying your vegetables, and we're going to buy that herd share perhaps, or maybe, don't tell the cops, maybe some non-pasteurized milk with all the fat, right? All the fat, all the good things in it. Well, this is David Toulis, and our show is Nuganomics.com. We are excited about the prospect. We're excited by the idea that marriage is something you can have by right. Gay people can't marry at common law, but you can. You, my listener, can sure do that. And your daughter can marry at common law. Why would your daughter want to marry a man who has not the right to marry her because he asked her and he got your permission? Why? Why does the state have to give permission for him to marry your daughter? Can't you give permission? Aren't you man enough, dad enough to give permission? I think you probably are. So why can't they marry at common law? Again, common law is only because it's right and true and good. It's a common law. It's a common local economy. Marriage, you see.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Are you calling me yeller? Them's is fighting words.
Being